Why Daniel Kinahan put €1 million bounty on Hutch's head. It is only common sense to know you can never be two best friends with a criminal, and things will always go south. Unfortunately, this is the case for Hutch, as despite his being cleared legally, his dubious company cannot guarantee whether or not he will make it alive in the long run. Interestingly for the monk, this is not a new development, as he had successfully spent 5 years hidden and seen only a handful of times until his arrest in 2021, after 5 months of intensive search. In today's video, we will discuss the lost love between Jerry Hutch and his longtime best friend Daniel Kinahan. Be sure to stick around for all updates on the case. After an attempt to make right with the law, Northern enforcer Gerard Macken made known the €1 million down payment made by Daniel Kinahan for him to take a hit on Jerry the Monk Hutch. He claimed to have been promised 10 times more should the hit be successful. In a report, Gerard Macken was said to have stated that he was flown to Dubai after the down payment to end Hutch's life. As already known, this did not go according to plan, and the target seemed to snatch himself from the clutches of death swiftly. According to reports, Gerard Macken in court made a heartfelt confession to the court. He said he has made poor choices in the past and intends to turn his life around with his family in Spain when he is released from prison after pleading guilty to money laundering. Currently, the hardened hitman is locked up with members of the Kinahan cartel in Port Louis prison awaiting sentence, and is understood to be one of several terrorists, hitmen, and enforcers who got an advance to murder the monk. The manhunt was reported to have been triggered by the 2016 shooting of David Byrne, 33, who was an associate of the Kinahan cartel. He suffered 6 gunshot wounds from a high-velocity weapon. It was suspected to be a gang raid that had happened at the Regency Hotel, and Jerry Hutch was considered the main suspect of the murder and had been Ireland's most wanted fugitive since then. The footage of the attack shows masked attackers taking shots at Mr. Byrne at the hotel lobby, unfortunately to the detriment of loungers who had to flee in panic. The footage, however, had another recording to know whether or not Jerry Hutch is as innocent as he claims. Mr. Byrne, before he was unalive, was a Kinahan gang member who was shot dead by gunmen disguised as Gardaí who stormed the hotel along with an armed man dressed as a woman in a blonde wig and another person in a flat cap. Before the shooting, there was a clash between the two gangs, Kinahan and Hutch gangs, and it was most likely a revenge feud that claimed the life of a best mate and the father of 2. Mr. Jerry Hutch was not the only individual accused of the murder. John Murphy, 59, of Cherry Avenue Swords, and Jason Bonney, 50, of Drumney Wood, was suspected of having aided the murder by providing vehicle access assistance to the criminal organization. These 2 and other minor parties were brought to light from the footage after the death of Mr. Byrne. The footage of the night before the attack shows Patrick Dowdall, a former inmate known for helping gang raids, checking in at the hotel lobby. Mr. Dowdall tried to avoid curiosity by paying in cash and signing documents for his key card. He was seen later taking a lift to his room and leaving later. Not so coincidentally, another accused, now deceased Kevin Murray, was seen arriving at the hotel in a taxi with a hold-all bag over his shoulder. Weirdly, he does not go to reception but to a seating area in the lobby, where he spends his time before taking a lift to the same room. There are 2 physically neutral witnesses to the incident. According to a photographer who was present during the lobby attack, he claimed to have heard from one of the raiders saying, "He wasn't there, I couldn't see him." To confirm the footage, the photographer also reported the gunmen were disguised in the same manner. The second witness, a reporter, claimed to have spotted Mr. Kinahan at the boxing weigh-in of the hotel. There were other people convicted of the 2016 murder before the Hutch. Councillor Dowdall and his father, Patrick Dowdall, were charged with the murder until Jonathan Dowdall pled guilty to a lesser offense and was sentenced to 4 and 2 years respectively. The following person convicted murder seems too close to home for Gerard Hutch. His nephew, Patrick Hutch, was accused of firearms possession misconduct, but was released in 2019 as a free man. On the effect of the killing spree that had David Byrne brutally, Hutch was reported to have immediately fled from Ireland for safety reasons. He supposedly spent years roaming Europe to be safe and away from the chaos. His minimal activities were because he did not put it past his rival, Daniel Kinahan, leader of the Kinahan cartel, to send troops across the continent to ensure his demise. The effect of the Kinahan hunch has left over 16 people and possibly more dead on both sides. The body count might increase with only a little trigger. After his warrant-issued arrest in Costa del Sol by the Guardia Civil, Gerard Hutch was kept in custody until September 2021, when he was transferred from Ireland to Spain to face trial. His arrest did not simply happen, and it was a chance of luck after months of trailing. The monk stood apprehended by Spain's top anti-fugitive police unit. He was in the process of having a meal at the restaurant. His arrest warrant had been issued in April 2021, and there was no contention of whether or not it was legal. Before his arrest, Hutch was only publicly cited in February 2026 at the funeral of his brother, Eddie Hutch, a victim of the gang's revenge feud over Burns. There were no other noticeable sightings, and it is concluded that he placed himself on house arrest or is an award-winning master of disguise and stealth. His recent release does not guarantee his safety in any way. In fact, it seems like throwing him into the arms of a waiting panther, ready to pounce at any minute. For all we know, the years-long bounty over his head might not have been concluded, or even worse, it might have been renewed in anticipation of his release. The monk, who was said to have turned 60 recently, is not anywhere close to rest and security. Most likely, the remaining years of his life will be spent looking over his shoulder and worrying about sporadic attacks on his family. It certainly does not help matters that he is infamous in Dublin and far too recognizable and vulnerable to attacks. From predictions, going low profile does not seem unusual for him, and for his protection, it is safe to assume that for the time being, he will be keeping his head a little above the ground. Fortunately or unfortunately, depending on the perspective, his many properties might serve to save his life, or harbor him for the time being. According to rumors, the monk supposedly has a listed properties in Lanzarote, Spain, Turkey, Bulgaria, Hungary, and London. He is also said to have a property in Tias, Lanzarote, as the headquarters for his Spanish real estate company. However, the question of whether he will live on the property or not is still a matter of debate. A source commented, "We were expecting him to be gone already, but we do believe he will be gone soon. We cannot read his mind, but we do think he will go. It could be tomorrow, and it could be in a few weeks. Only he knows. But the threat is so serious, the only conclusion we can draw is that he will disappear." His choice of friends seems a bit concerning after Jonathan Dowdall's testimony against him. But it is not above him, since clouded judgment got him to his current situation and the loss of a loved one. Hopefully, a stab in the back doesn't have him fooled twice. Definitely, to his relief and want for freedom, Hutch has no more outstanding legal charges against him, and though he is under close supervision, he is now a declared free man. The last of investigations against him, including his association with receiving confidential Garda information from disgraced ex-superintendent John Murphy and directing a crime gang, is still under investigation. The investigation has the disgraced superintendent John Murphy being the information leaked to crime gangs, including Hutch. Further research had the former superintendent arrested and sentenced to 6.5 years in 2021 for the possession of cannabis at his home in Dublin. More investigation into the case will determine his innocence in the case. However, recently, tables have turned into a twisted fate due to the actions initiated by Dublin's, UK, and EU authorities to bring down the crime empire and drug kingpin, the Kinahan cartel, to the surprise of many. A $5 million bounty for information leading to the arrests of the heads of the Kinahan cartel. According to reports, it was stated that the newly appointed U.S. ambassador to Ireland, Claire Cronin, told the press conference that the U.S. would pay up to 3 separate $5 million for helpful information to put any of the 3 Kinahans behind bars. Although it is unlikely that this measure might be successful due to the ingrained fear of many, there are still possibilities of getting just the correct information to nab Christie and his sons, Daniel and Christie Jr., with enough evidence of their misdeeds. The lack of substantial evidence is the leader, Daniel's strong fortress of leaning on being a sports promoter, boxing among many. According to an investigation, at the risk of imprisonment, Daniel Kinahan had earlier fled Spain several years ago to take refuge in UAE. It can only be concluded that his extended stay has resulted in building and running the close-knitted crime empire. In an effort to pass the crime dealings as legitimate, there have been several activities and publicity on the Kinahan's image as being supporters and investors of sports and influential figures in the boxing world. Despite Ireland's officials in shutting down the drug trafficking empire, only a handful of results have been made. Perhaps this move is the authorities' major confrontation with the dominant crime empire. Another of the authorities' grievances against the Kinahan empire is the gang being accountable for the loss of at least 18 lives in Ireland and Spain since 2015. According to the statement from Drew Harris, Ireland's police chief, he expressed his hope for a change in the attitude of citizens and UAE involvement in assistance with an international crackdown on the Kinahans. The recent course of action is the dossier freezing of Kinahan's US-controlled properties and financial assets. There were also attempted foreign assets control of the cartel's properties in Spain, England, Netherlands, and recently, Dubai. However, the case might be for the Kinahans. Gerry Hutch's life is always on the line for revenge. He possibly might find safety among his loved and trusted ones. Until then, further investigations on him continue, and his activities are closely monitored. Although he is temporarily legally free from all charges, it is fair to say Gerry Hutch will never be in a state of total security and safety. What is your conclusion on the case of the Kinahan-Hutch feud? Does the monk have a way back from all these losses? Be sure to share your thoughts in the comments section below. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and click on the notification button for updates on new videos.